cement the Big Ten a spot on, the Riot stage. Last year, they were kind of just shooed through to it. This year, they have to earn it. And I think that means a little bit more pressure, but we're going to see how this all culminates as we are getting into picks and bans for game number 1. It's George Mason on the blue side, and Illinois will be taking over to the red.
So first thing we're going to have to be watching is the bot lane priority, and already GMU trying to deny out the Caitlyn plus Morgana lane. They are the blue side, so the fact that they, with the first pick, have to be banning out the Morgana means that they're looking at something different in the bottom lane. Maybe the Varus coming back, maybe the Ashe even starting to rear its head, but the best way to get out to a strong lead in one of these best of threes is to pull out something the opponent isn't expecting, especially one of those key roles or your carry role. So now, the other team, if you win that first match, backed into a corner, have to react so incredibly quickly. But Kaisa, speaking of which, won't be making it through this match.
Interesting. Project One played this twice yesterday, lost both games, but looked the best on his team doing it, and it was certainly a priority that they added to this. So Illinois changing up the strategy a little bit for their last run, potentially, of the collegiate season, or maybe just extending it right on out through here. George Mason, one more ban on the table. They're going to take away the Alistar, so they're aiming at the support role pretty heavily. They don't want Ginormous Noob to really be able to protect Project One that heavily, and the Zac ban's just kind of something you have to cover your bases with.
Yeah.
So they don't want him on that one.
But with the Zac ban, you are still leaving the trifecta of meta junglers up so far, and the Rakan ban is just going to solidify that. The three-way split of the jungle being the Trundle, the Skarner, and the Olaf are all still on the board. So GMU, if they want to go something with that route, they do have the option. Caitlyn also available, a very common first pick when you're trying to prioritize strong pressure in that bottom lane.
Well, it's all coming down to this. They do decide Karma, actually, what they do want to pick up there. No huge surprises. It makes a decent flex. I know Route has played it into the mid lane. Alex as well could take this into the bottom lane, and with 2 support bans already on their own side and the Rakan as well, I think it's a pretty big pickup just to take it out of the pool and put a little bit of pressure on that role in particular.
And the only reason you're seeing it picked this early on is just because of its flexibility. Karma sure has been doing a great job on the support role. It's probably one of the only supports outside of Morgana that can start to rival Caitlyn in that straight pushing. Skarner locked in so early does open the door up for an Olaf, almost baiting in George Mason, daring Firefly to pick that away, as Olaf is seen as basically the direct counter Skarner. You can Ragnarok directly out of his ultimate, and you're still able to go pretty competitive, but we have been seeing a lot of changing in that jungle pool, just away from the generic 3 tanks.
Yeah, Gragas is something I like to see picked up here. Olaf in particular, too. Zeno is a talented Anivia player, and that's something that, can really just bring the Olaf to a grinding halt. So they can threaten that one. The Skarner baiting out the Olaf. I would not be surprised if they picked up the Anivia, so they're just going to try to avoid that situation entirely. They pick up Gragas. They're good to go here. Would not be surprised if it's the AD lock-in, just to round out that bottom lane. Will be the Sivir picked up out and away coming into the Caitlyn. She's come back into favor a little bit just here, so will be the solo lanes, potentially maybe a support as well if the Karma flexes to be drafted now for the likes of George Mason.
The Karma plus Sivir is basically never going to get pushed in from the side of Illinois, just with how much clear you get out of the Sivir with the ricochet shots. Sure, it takes a while to turn online, but it's great for just stalling out these games to a later stage, buying time for some pick, whether it be a split pusher in the top lane if they want to grab something like the Fiora, like the Jax, like the Camille, that have really just been seeing resurgences in the meta due to the Conqueror changes. Just getting so much bonus damage up on the top side of the map. But with the... I really don't think this is going to be a Karma in the mid lane, because Sivir plus Karma, sure, you're stalling out for so incredibly long, but then you are putting all your eggs in the basket of the split push game.
Well, Ion will take the Ornn off the table. Doesn't want Sopopotamus to pick that one up. Going to be very solo lane focused, and they seem to agree with you. They're worried that this Karma is indeed a support lock, because over on the side of Illinois, they ban out the Vladimir. Wouldn't be surprised to see another mid lane ban come through. Ion has a deep enough champion pool. It can be a little bit of trouble, but they say, hey, with Ornn off the table, we don't want Gnar anywhere near this game, so they take that one. And
Gnar is the safe split pushing pick. Not only is it the range into melee matchup most of the time on the top side, but it's also a split pusher that doesn't have to commit to split pushing. He can always find his way into these fights. And now what Illinois are doing with the Band of the Gnar. They're saying, all right, if you're going to split push, you are going to commit to that split push, and we are going to punish you everywhere else on the map. And now that does leave it up. Does GMU actually double down, pick up the either Fiora, the Camille, the even Yasuo we've been seeing coming back? But
Eesh.
I mean, Yasuo with the Gragas would actually be a very effective duo if they wanted to throw that into something like the mid lane. But like you were saying, Nivea stirs her head right in this match.
Well, you know what? I actually like the idea of picking up the... Okay, let's see. I don't think they're going to do that. No, so the Anivia into the Rise is going to be just fine. It's going to be the top lane that Topopotamus does need to pick up. Now, I would not be surprised if they try to go something... Well, you know what? They're going to grab the Singe, so it doesn't matter what the predictions are. This is the team composition we now have from the likes of George Mason. It's one that likes to run, particularly at you. They do have the Sivir and the Karma to make Singed a living nightmare for the likes of Illinois here, and the Cho'Gath locked in the top lane. Our composition's become clear.
It certainly is incredibly safe. I mean, Anivia, Sivir, Gragas, Karma is the wave clearest core composition I could actually ever think of, but Singed isn't your traditional split pusher in the top lane. His job as a champion is to make the enemy champion in the top lane not exist, because they're never allowed to leave the lane. Top opponents will have to constantly be keeping up these waves, especially if we get sort of a proxy farm Singed on the top side. But then the question now becomes, who's the actual carry threat? Anivia and Sivir do not turn on until very late in this game, and they sacrifice their early game without the true payoff in the late. Illinois basically have the entirety of the early portion of this map to just take over the match and put it away.
Yeah, they've certainly got a lot of time now in this game, especially with the likes of getting Project 1 rolling on a Caitlyn. If they can do that and just coast through the early game into the mid game, they're just going to be by default a stronger team. And they're going to have a little bit more rotational power to them, just with the ultimate coming out of Rise as well, and the fact that Singed is just going to be, locked on that top side. He's not going to be, making huge teleport threats too early on into this game, more just proxying the wave. So the macro potential for the likes of Illinois a little bit stronger right around that 20-minute mark. And
exactly.
With this composition, they could really just turn on the heat there. That said, looking over at the side of George Mason, I'm putting a lot of pressure on Firefly here to keep those lanes suppressed.
I mean, you have the tools in the lanes already, and Nivea, as long as she plays semi-conservatively, isn't realistically going to die to a Rise in a 1v1 situation unless you incredibly misplay that. But even looking around, like, Sivir, Karma is probably one of the safer bottom lanes you can take that doesn't have a champion named Tom Kench. The payoff for George Mason is potentially huge. If you can get to the late game, you can basically kill anyone in your path, but now the question becomes, how do you get to the late game in Illinois? If they want to start breaking up this early game in particular, looking at that Skarner, looking at that Rise, looking at that Caitlyn, they need to be so committed to these plays, because if there's one thing GMU has, it is disengage.
Well, you mentioned something too. Wave clear, wave clear, wave clear. I mean, these guys can weather the storm for a ridiculously long time and really start to cripple the push of Illinois there if it comes down to it, just in that your minions, if they don't get to towers, those towers are just going to last a long time, basically until Cho'Gath can scale up to just tank the whole thing out if no minions can ever get there, or neutral objectives such as the Rift Herald. But even then, the wave clear of George Mason just going to be very tough to deal with, so we'll see what answers they can find over on the side of Illinois, because with the Caitlyn and the Rise, those are going to be the ones that are going to be looking to just push, and you have to wonder if that's going to be enough.
Exactly, and getting ready to load on into our first matchup of the day. Remember, best of 3, winner guarantees, goes through as the second team out of Group B, no matter what happens in the first game. Columbia College has already clinched the #1 spot, not only with a 2-0 record so far, but also head-to-head over both these teams, so it's honestly just a fight for second, but you know what? Sometimes second's good enough.
Yeah, in this case, they're just going to be happy to get to the Riot stage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see how that all transpires, how that all does pan out for them. But in the meantime, we have a few little bit of announcements, information to share about the CSL, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So if you're watching and you want to get your school a little bit more involved in the future, you can hit !Discord in the chat to keep up with everything we're doing in collegiate esports. More than just League of Legends. There's Counter-Strike, there's Dota, Vainglory, many more to be participating in. And so things like community games, if you want to just get in touch with our admins, find a way to get your school playing those esports, Discord's a great way to do it. !Discord in the chat there. Follow us on our social medias, Twitter and Facebook. That's twitter.com/CStarLeague or CSLLOL. That is facebook.com/CStarLeague. Want to give a huge shout out to Twitch TV for the continued help, love, and support. So nothing but gratitude for those guys. We wouldn't be what we are without their help just along the way. So Facebook.com/Twitch, Twitter.com/Twitch. Great ways to get involved with them in the near future. If you're ever watching CSL and you think, man, I cannot keep up with all of this action, that's okay. We upload everything to YouTube at the end of this. All of our esports. That's youtube.com/user/CStarLeague. Great for VOD review if you're a team playing in League of Legends, scouting out the opponents. Great for just some entertainment, or if you like other esports, things of that nature. And last but not least, do want to give a huge shout out to Juice Battery. Long story short, they last 6 times as long. They charge twice as fast. They work in anything, keyboards, mice, controllers. If you're playing a video game and you don't want your batteries to die, well, Juice Battery is a great way to make that one happen. And yeah, that should just about do it. I'm Kyle Corvus Crow. This is Steven Return Johnson. You can find our Twitters by hitting !casters in the chat. We always love to hear your feedback. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting into game number 1. George Mason, blue side. Illinois, red.
Yeah, just waiting for all the champions to load on in here as we do get locked in ready on the Rift. Once more, there'll be George Mason on the blue side, Illinois on the red. Want to keep our eyes on this early game in particular. Certainly the bottom lane should be going pretty darn safe back and forth just because of the Karma plus the Sivir should be a lane that physically is impossible to actually push back away from the enemy tower. So keep your eyes there. Maybe even some early movements coming out of Minsu, coming out of Zeno.
Yeah, I mean, early is the name of the game here. If you are Illinois, you want to get this game snowballing in your favor ASAP. And so would not be surprised with the roams from potentially Topopotamus, Minsu, and Zeno. They're going to be having a lot of pressure on them just to, you know, help kind of destroy this bottom lane, because Project One, he is the carry that they just want to get mobile in this game, right? He's the champion that, in this composition, really needs to be the cornerstone.
It's a bit more of a softer scale than that. Certainly, yes, Caitlyn does really start spiking off at that one item spike, get that Infinity Edge, and you're going to be doing pretty well for yourself in the lane, but that does nicely scale up towards a team fighting stage where you have Ryze coming online, frankly, before Sivir really does. So Zeno is going to be like the timekeeper for this match. If this Ryze is going to be able to get off to a decent early game, get all those items stacking, grab the tier, maybe even grab the Roa early enough in this match, there's going to be a solid time where Illinois are going to have 2 online carries in both that mid lane and ADC roles that just aren't contested. And when you have that sort of advantage, you can look for the big macro play, but macro, of course, is going to be the key word. Again, so much wave clear, you got to come up with funky ways to actually knock these towers down.
Yeah, we saw macro actually being a place in which Illinois really had some struggles yesterday. Granted, they were going against Columbia College, one of the best macro teams in the league, so it's always hard to look outstanding there. But if you just compare them, you know, apples to apples here, George Mason had a much closer series against Columbia College, who, you know, kind of dominated Illinois yesterday. So we'll see whether or not that's telling or indicative of just the 2 macro styles between these guys, and if there's, you know, potentially just an outclass on either side.
Well, as of right now, I'd have to say Illinois have certainly won the drafting phase in my eyes, just with more pressure potential in this early game. And there's always a bit of a different feel to a match when you're playing someone nearly equal in level than someone who's very much above you. And yeah, certainly, Illinois, if they keep playing like they did versus Columbia College, remember, Columbia College didn't even win their region. There's still Maryville in the midst. There's still all the other top teams from the main region. So we'll be having some issues if they actually do make it through the national championships and haven't changed too much. But this also is not Columbia College. This is a team where if they start to get an inch, they can really just take apart this match. And that's certainly a lot of potential for doing so. And Zeno doing a pretty good job controlling the mid lane so far.
He's looking for that inch you mentioned. Get Route on the back foot. Now, of course, there always is the rebirth passive, the egg for Anivia. Nothing too crazy there, but even managing to get that off early or force a flash is going to open a lot of doors for Minsu here. Skarner gank, not the most potent thing in the world before his ultimate, but certainly nothing to sleep on. So,
in this game, In this game, speaking of the Skarner, might actually get pretty hard around the 20-minute mark. One of the big things we always have to talk about when we maybe not enough time, Topotamus.
Yeah, he's in a little bit of trouble here. Gonna at least have to force the flash. The ghost is down, but look at this. Minsu was not there in time. Thought he might be able to, but that's a first blood solo coming out from Ione, and Topotamus not off to the best start here.
Not only is that the first blood, but that is first blood with the flash out of Topotamus. Sure, he's going to have the TP to get back into the lane, but the flash has a much longer cooldown than the ghost, so Ione, it's going to have a much longer time to actually control this top lane, and now Topotamus has to be basically looking over his shoulder at every single crevice and every single turn, wondering if he's just going to get ganked and killed once more.
Yeah, this really does put a lot of burden on the vision from Topotamus at this point. He has to be careful of the ganks because Firefly has a lot of tools. The flash body slam, once he gets level 6, the ultimate coming online. I mean, you can really do some damage to the more immobile champions. And while Cho'Gath has some deterrence in his rupture, he doesn't have the best escape without that flash. And so if they can get onto him, he can be in a lot of trouble. So we'll see what Firefly does opt to do with that information. He is currently just completing the back, has opted, of course, to grab that skirmishers and mosey right on back along. I want to talk about this ward he might step over. That was some good invade by Minsu just to keep track of the enemy jungler and know where he is. I don't think he got spotted out exactly by that, but Minsu playing deep into the jungle now of George Mason, he's going to give them some critical information here.
And this is one of the things you just can rely on when you have this shoving out mid lane. The thing with the Nivea is, yes, you do have great late game wave clear, but in the early game, you are severely lacking, especially before the level 6. And with that shoving out of Zeno in the mid lane, you basically open the door for Minsu to take all the jungle pressure that he wants. He can go for an invade, knowing that route's not going to be able to collapse on him if he does get caught out here. But Zeno,
speaking of jungle pressure, yeah, we're seeing both come into this mid lane, and Minsu favors it. He thinks he's got this one. Gets the stun off onto Route, but can they turn this around? Firefly body blocking, and it's a big body at that, but his health bar not as big. This is bad! And nice pick up. Route did not prepare for that one. Zeno just on the edge of it. Did get the revive passive down. It's not going to net a kill, but, you know, for the next long while here, that egg timer is going to be on cooldown.
And that was a good roam down from Ione, the only thing that kept his mid laner alive in that fight. But honestly, looking at Zeno, that was incredibly choked. Like, he choked very much during that fight because he missed like 3 separate overloads, 3 separate Qs in that fight that all could have scored the killing blow onto Route, at least popped that egg earlier. Would it have netted him the kill perfectly still with Ione coming down? You could definitely argue no, but that's something you do have to keep your eyes on going through, because Ryze is one of those champions where, yeah, it's not that hard to farm. It's pretty hard to take fights off, and if you're not able to actually land those skill shots during the important moments, you lose so much of your damage potential.
Well, Route does not seem to be too annoyed by the fact that he did lose his egg passive, so that's a fluke. Here in this lane, I'm still calling the shots, and forces it back onto Zeno, who will have to walk back to lane with no teleport. Now, there's no mana on Route. He's pretty low at this point, so probably will be backing himself before too long, but trying to get that lane advantage before it all does come down. Now, looking around towards the spot side of the map, Return, you and I thought this might be the point where most of the action was happening, but with just a Cloud Drake in the river, neither of these two teams are too invested on trying to gank out these safe lanes and turn it into anything much more. So mid lane looks like it might be where the struggle's at for both of these sides for a little bit longer here.
The problem is, looking at the bottom lane for Illinois, it's the question of resources required to pull off a gank compared to what you actually get in. Sure, the Sivir plus Karma lane is going to be consistently pushing out, which means, yeah, you are opening the door to a gank, but you are against a Karma and Sivir. It is very unlikely you're going to be able to solidify something unless you bring down like the TP or maybe even a double T, making it a 5v2 dive. But at that point, once the lane's already shoved out, what are you realistically going to be getting in response? And at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. And Firefly, though,
ooh, yeah, he wants to find Zeno. There's the body slam. Does get rooted up, and will have to use the explosive cast to get back, but the flash out is down.
Ooh.
It's a nice escape, actually, through the Realm Warp, just to make sure that he's in no trouble. But look at this. They're still on the pursuit. Cho'Gath has come down. Can Topotamus help find this one, or is Ione just going to make all the difference in this fight? Route finds Zeno first off. This could be more, or it could just be the disengage, and it looks like yes. That's going to be the second solo laner to fall now from the side of Illinois, and It's a mid for mid pick up. Route takes that one out and away. Going to be feeling really good about the advantage that he has now.
And that was just the superior team coordination, the superior team macro coming down. Firefly and Route set that kill up perfectly. There might have been an absolutely amazing play coming out from Zeno. Popped down the Realm Warp, flashed away to make the opponents think he flashed over the wall, and then caught the very edge of that Realm Warp in the bush to get himself out of that. But unfortunately, at level 7, the ultimate doesn't quite go that long. He's eventually run down by Ione in the top lane, coming down for GMU, able to survive out that kill.
Ione living up to his name, as he is definitely the sole proprietor of this top lane right now. He owns it out and away. Topopotamus was on the run twice in that last run of in the last couple fights we've seen, so we'll see now if the gank from Minsu can make the difference. You know, Anivia, good enough counter to Skarner, throws out the little BM mastery just to say, yes, without a flash, you're not getting me.
With Anivia, what you do lack in early game pressure, you make up for in safety. Not only do you have the extra life on your passive, but also that wall, so incredibly good at shutting down a lot of the junglers of the day. Olaf plus Skarner, you just pop a wall in front of them, they're not going to get you unless they flash on over.
It really has brought Anivia just back into the fold of competitive play. That's something I love to see, because it's a very versatile champion, and, you know, a good Anivia can make all the difference in the world. But when we talk about that, Cloud Drake looking to be the focus for the likes of Illinois. I don't believe George Mason have too many clues that this is going on right now, or if they do, they certainly don't care. Got 3 control wards in the area, but none in the path that was taken by the likes of Illinois here. So they're going to slay the dragon, step over some wards on the way back up to this mid lane, and I feel this should be a pretty safe retreat for Route here.
I'm honestly very underwhelmed by the mid lane at this point. I mean, we're in this meta where, yeah, Ari's back, LeBlanc's back, Zed's back, and what do we get? Anivia and Rise. Just 2 things looking to wave cleared on out, and
yeah, Stardew Valley Farm Simulator.
I want to see multiplayer needs to come out for that soon, by the way, but I want to see some sort of adaptations in game number 2, see which mid laners actually going to be confident enough to try to take the game into their own hands. But the dreaded split push has begun, and here's what I want to see. Banner of Command already completed for Ione. Incredibly hard for Topopotamus to clear away. Sure, he does have the consume on the ultimate, but using that... Exactly, yeah. Not being able to pop that every like 5 milliseconds whenever a Banner of Command minion comes on up, still going to be incredibly annoying to actually clear away. So it just exemplifies the just sheer annoyance factor of the Singed. But you do have to start wondering how well that's actually going to be able to carry over to the later game, and more importantly, is that going to carry through the pressure enough on this top side of the map to buy both the Sivir and the Anivia time that they need to scale up into a real late game teamfight threat.
Does get hit up by the explosive cask. What a wall to force the flash. Really good play by Route there, but does get stunned back up on the other side of things. Zeno knows that he can't win this fight individually, so he uses the Realm Warp to get out. Did a lot of damage to Route, got his health low, but knew at the end of the day too many champions were coming his way, and had to just back on off from that one. So they force a flash and an ultimate. Flash from Minsu, Zeno the Realm Warp, so still George Mason's favorite throughout these extended skirmishes, and just a little bit of bloody knuckles on the bot lane. I doubt without the explosive cast Firefly is going to make too much of a difference here. I think everyone should just back off.
Yeah, Flash still available for Firefly, but without that explosive cast, there's not too much you can realistically do on one of these fights, and a little bit undervalued, as Braum has always been seen as kind of the counter to Ornn. Wait, hold that thought, Minsu.
Yeah,
might just be called out.
Trouble. Ione is here, and he's going to have the toss back. That health bar's getting low. He's got this in the 1v1. Without the flash from last time, there's nothing he can do. Route throws down the Glacial Storm just to get a little bit of gold back there in the assist. So Ione taking a commanding lead of this game as this Singed, and well, it's not something we may have expected. It's something I certainly love to see, because he's just making all the difference in the world right now.
And we talked about this a little bit in the early game, but Zeno pushing out does open the door a lot for Minsu, but the issue is without Realm Warp, without the actual pushing advantage for Zeno right this moment, you can't reliably expect him to come on over.
Hang on a second. Yeah, this was not at all what Enrique wanted. Alex taking up the Glacial Fissure as well there, but here's Firefly. The flash is out, and the teleport's coming down. That should get canceled there. Not going to be the case. It was Zeno's teleport, keep in mind, not Topopotamus, so Route was able to delay that. I do want to criticize Ginormous Noob. He used the Glacial Fissure to lock up Alex, when if they could have used that on Enrique, they may have found themselves the last little bit that they needed for that kill there.
And also a little bit MVP to the minion, because there was a 50 caliber net in the air that would have been enough to finish off Enrique. Unfortunately for them, it was blocked by a minion, so didn't go down just yet. But the dreaded bannered up cannon minion once again in the top lane, as Ione still not actually receiving any attention. Will not yet get the tower, but it's getting pretty darn close.
Route still has his flash. He doesn't think he's
Good
in
old
that much
mana.
trouble. Firefly wants to come in onto this one, and there's the Glacial Storm. But without any mana, what can Route really do? Finds a double stun, and Ione on the back line might try to make this one happen, but he's also in a very conservative situation with his mana, so... Once again, everyone will back off, and it seems that Illinois keeps trying things and just running into problems. George Mason seemed to be a little bit quicker on the reactionary plays.
The issue is everywhere for GMU is just too darn safe. They're not willing to commit the 5 members it's going to take to knock down one of these first towers. You're starting to see a little bit of wavering now in the bottom lane. Enrique, before getting that second, third item, he's going to have a hard time going against the 1 item spike for Project 1. And that could be the potential to actually break this game apart. But with the rise in the mid lane, not going to be scaling for the next 2 to 3 items, not quite going to be breaking this game open. You need to find it somewhere. Otherwise, the scaling still from Anivia, plus the Sivir may just be too much, especially once people have started paying that Skarner tax of the QSS. You're not really going to have any engage options either.
You know, we talked about needing early advantages for the likes of Illinois. That's their time. That's when they can really break this game open. Right now, the early advantage is still in the favor, and it's not staunchly in the favor, right, of George Mason, but they definitely have the early advantage. No towers have gone down, and the Drake advantage actually sitting over in the hands of Illinois, but the 3 kills and, you know, split CS differentials here and there are making the difference and giving the slightest edge here to George Mason. And that's not what you want to see if you're a fan of Illinois right now. You feel like they should be taking command of this game at this point and really turning it on its head. George Mason, they're going to be comfortable. They're going to be really happy here.
Exactly. This is the precisely exact game plan. They want to go for wall on Xeno.
Yeah, this is Ione coming through the backside to flip him back into the middle of the lane. Meanwhile, Minsu did able to find himself in there. That's going to be the suppressed pull back into tower for Route. This is definitely going to be the egg. They're probably going to find more onto this one. I think they've turned this one, and yes, Xeno gets himself the first kill for the side of Illinois, and they'll be happy to pick that one up as another Drake spawning. Cloud Drake number 2.
And that was a play engaged by GMU. They brought Singed over first, but they didn't respect the scaling factor they still needed to go through. Route is not the end-all be-all carry just yet in this match, but it does look like with the full team rotations, they are still going to be able to knock over the first tower of this match.
Going to be happy to find that one for themselves and just retreat on back to things. In the meantime, it's a hard shove from Project 1 and Ginormous Noob. They're not going to be able to find too much, but looks like they actually may want to fight here. It's going to be a 3-man Glacial Fissure, really nicely done, trying to get in onto Enrique. They stun him up in time. And that's another one found. Chalk up to the side of Illinois. Dragon number 2 on the menu for them. And they're going to be pretty speedy with this second cloud at their back.
TP goes to the top side from Ione, so he's definitely looking to knock over this top tower as well in response, trying to break this game open to a 2-0 tower advantage. But that was GMU. They were so secure with where they were in the match. They were scaling perfectly, but they got a little bit too anxious. They got a little bit too trigger happy on that play. And just like that, they overextend once, and right now Illinois, they're going to bash them right back each and every time.
Going to be buying themselves a little bit more room here with this tower taken off in the top side of things. You said 2-0 lead. That is exactly what they have, and it's almost a 2K gold lead because of it. But they definitely need to find a way to keep up that pressure and keep up that heat, because otherwise, if they just keep playing like they got it in the bag, Illinois balked on them a couple times here, and now Ione could be in some trouble. They want to find a Minsu. Without the ultimate, can't really lock him down too hard. Knows the number 1 rule of the Singe is that you don't chase. And that's okay. They're going to let him go this time around as they do reset. And that's Oppopotamus versus Route. He could be in a little bit of trouble. Ione back here going to force the teleport out of Xeno. They're going to be happy to just back off of that one. Make him cancel, sure, but that's still a huge summoner to have to come down and buy a little bit of time for themselves.
And this is still playmaking opportunity after playmaking opportunity squandered by the defensiveness from GMU. Teleport going down ruins a lot of the mobility of the Rise, rather. Speaking of Singed, Ion finds way down to bot side.
The Flash going to be happy to throw ginormous noob back. They're going to snare that one up. And can they get the damage down in time? Because Hippopotamus is going to come try to change the tide of this fight. Meanwhile, up in the top side, Firefly's low, but the body slam finds two, and Route gets a kill. Firefly's over the wall. Can Route take on Zeno in what's effectively a 1v1 at this point? The health bar says maybe not, but Firefly, could he be the cavalry they need? I think the answer is yes, and Route finds a second. That's going to be a double kill for him. Unofficial, but counts for gold all the same. He's going to feel great about that one and reset this top pressure that was becoming a pretty decent condition for Zeno and the likes of Illinois. So, very decisive win on the top side of the map for George Mason.
And that was a great way to kite in and out of the fight, especially from Firefly with the combination from Route. And unfortunately there from Zeno, that play was possible, trying to turn around that 2v1. You needed to play it absolutely perfect. Every single overcharge, every single spell flux needed to hit their mark. And unfortunately, he just couldn't pull it out in the pinch. And as such, will be going down quite hard. But now, look at all that extra guild going into the pockets of Route. Still within about 1k, still at about a 3 CS disadvantage. Nothing too crazy just yet. But remember, that is one hard scaling bird now going in that mid lane.
Yeah, 3 kills are going to feel so good for this champion, and this is exactly the kind of little lead that they need to guarantee they can scale comfortably into the later portions of this game. They've not given up a tower yet. They've only given up 2 Drakes, and depending on who you ask, you know, they're the least important Drakes in the game, but, you know, doubling up on the Cloud Drake certainly makes it a force to be reckoned with. Baron and Asher spawning as we do cross 20 minutes.
I mean, keep in mind with the Windrakes that there was a buff back a few patches ago that made it so the Windrakes gave you bonus movement speed while in combat as well. And remember, this is the team that has a Singed, a Sivir, and a Singed Sivir and the Karma, the non-S champion. But they can go pretty fast. I'm willing to wager that there's going to be a Shirley's Revere in here somewhere as well, especially onto Alex's build. So there is quite the potential for these very quick macro rotations. They need to find some way to outmaneuver on the side of Illinois if they want to start taking these tier 2 towers. That could be the exact way in. And plus, you physically cannot make an outnumbered play anywhere if you are Illinois. If you can just consistently rely on GMU being on the other side of the map within like 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, even now, Route is up on that top side without teleport. As 5 members of Illinois were grouping towards the Dragon, but there was nothing there to grab, so they were just hanging out in the middle river together. Big old reunion party as they now send somebody back up very late to deal with this top side push and pressure that's been building up from Route.
A lot of Baron control has been picked away so far from the side of GMU. Don't expect them to go for it too quickly, but once again, with just the sheer mobility they have in their kit, they can easily look for something like a mid lane push, quickly rotate on over towards that Baron pit, start that up if they want to, with the potential damage between both a Sivir and a Nivea. If they wait just a little bit longer, it should be on point, but still, only 2 items completed for Enrique. Route, double scaling items already accomplished, now you just need the extra little bit on top. So,
yeah, everything else, this is where the fun starts to begin with Route's build. It's like, I can play League of Legends now.
Exactly. And George Mason still need just a little bit more time, but with each and every minute that passes, they're just getting closer and closer to that final objective.
I am still trying to knuckle dust here up against Hippopotamus. Knowing with that banner, he's in good shape just to keep pushing, so he doesn't mind losing a bit of his health bar, but same can't be said for Route. Does get taken down. Probably didn't even need the ultimate, but look at this. Firefly is trying to save things.
He's out!
Holy cow, are you kidding me? Is he really out of this one? The Realm Warp dodged around a little bit, but look at that. That's going to be the ace in the hole, making sure he does not get out of that one alive. Here's Ginormous Noob with a big glacial fissure. Zeno gets Firefly, but he's slow and cannot continue this pursuit. That's okay, because Noob and Project One want to try to find this one. Ninsu with no ultimate. The teleport's coming back, but they can just shred through this, and just like that, Illinois answer back, and now they're bringing in the teleport. It's Zeno again to try to knock down this tower. The rest of the team says, hey, Baron, potentially the bigger takeaway here. It's Singed and Sivir that they have to be careful of, but they do have definitely the open door here, and without a jungle from the likes of George Mason, this is tricky.
As long as Hippopotamus gets here, they should have enough pressure to actually take this Baron.
Oof, Ion, yeah, not coming out of that one okay. And yeah, with Topopotamus here, there's no chance that George Mason can take this one away. So Illinois net themselves the Baron and take the lead back in this game.
And that fight just went downhill. The second route got caught out. There are only so many plays you can actually pull off from Illinois, once again, against such a safe composition. The second you give them one, they sprung on it almost immediately. And without the Anivia in that fight, just look at the ADCs as well. There is no way that a 2-item Sivir is going to be able to reliably outfight a 2-item Caitlyn. So, still scaling, nowhere near scaled up enough. And now Illinois are going to be taking a fairly firm advantage in this match, looking to make it even more with this first Baron buff of the game.
Yeah, I mean, they really did just find one single inch and took a mile off of it. Another Drake, this time the Ocean, to be feeling really good for their sustained play as they do continue to try to build up this pressure. Finding their first tower of the match, going to be huge. Finally breaking open the map. There is, you know, good wave clear coming out of the likes of GMU, but how good is it against a Baron up team? Because they can just post up, attack these towers, and maybe even attack the champions. They want to try to find a fight. Never advisable under tower and glacial storm, but look at that. Firefly wants to knock some back. It's a good wall to keep routing some trouble, but it's just Topopotamus. That's the unlucky son of a gun. They can't get out of this one. They do eventually find his way out with a flash. Books his ticket to escape, but either way, it's getting a little tricky. This is the wave clear we talked about from the likes of GMU. They can just set up. Good play by Project One to keep Enrique low. That's what they need, is just to continue chipping away with this siege.
They have the bannered up command minion putting down some damage. As long as they keep their team alive, they should be perfectly fine. But you just saw there, even with Baron buff, George Mason are able to put up such a defense because of the Anivia plus Severe combo. But now it's just becoming a little bit too much to hold. And also with that engage, Ion definitely was not aiming for Topopotamus, looking for Xeno. It was a little bit of a blinking HP bar in that fight. But unfortunately, Topopotamus is just too damn big.
Yeah, he's a tanky son of a gun, and he ought to be. He is the tank for the side of Illinois, so fleshing out that role pretty well, and, you know, has a banner of command his own self this time. You know, we were talking about the disadvantage he was at to Ion with that banner. He says, that's fine, can't beat him, join him. Does so. Meanwhile, no teleports for the likes of Illinois, so this is a free tower for George Mason, and going to help to stop the bleeding dramatically here.
It helps stop the bleeding in one area, but they still have not gone to their main spikes just yet in the game. Illinois probably have about that 7 to 8 minute margin where they're still firmly going to be in control. But that being said, with that Baron buff, they did not get an inhibitor. They are not generating any extra pressure, and there is still so much wave clear available for Illinois. You got to make that one play somewhere to really just break open the base.
I mean, we talked about that. Yeah, the inhibitor obviously would have been something they would have loved to come out with, but keep in mind, they did not have a single tower at the start of that Baron play, so they had so much further to go and so much more pressure to set up, and this is 5 towers now throughout the duration of that Baron buff that they've been able to take out, so I think they're going to be happy with this regardless. And we have a pause. Just lag coming out from route, but they say they should be ready to reset pretty soon here. Hopefully it doesn't take too long now. In the meantime, breaking down this Baron push, they have to be thinking from the side of Illinois, hey, you know what, we found 5 towers. Maybe they're going to group in the top lane, try to find one more. Keep an eye on Enrique's position here, where he is on the map is not too high up. So
yeah, he's a good portion away, and probably actually being caught out by that control word could embolden the rest of this Illinois squad to look for the base. But honestly, there's just so much tower left to grab, and if you look in your bottom left of your screen, you can see that the Baron buff is basically already gone. And with no Baron buff, you have to think you need to make such a dramatic play. Actually knocked down one of these inhibitor towers. Still, against this massive wave clear composition, every single member here is a complete pain to try to wave clear against.
They definitely need to be finding quick, succinct pushes in open pockets. As we do get to an unpause, we'll see if they can try to push this one out. It is a nice wall from route to make sure that they're not in too much trouble, and that'll be it for the Baron. That was a swan song wave, so there is no more empowered minions, besides what they can do with the banner of command coming out of the legs of Topopotamus, can be countered obviously immediately by Ion should he be in the vicinity. Now they may just want to engage under the tower. They found one and they pull back Firefly. Xeno's going to get that kill. That may be what they need to continue this momentum and pressure as Illinois setting up pretty heavily, finding their first non-Baron induced tower of the map. 6 now. All outer towers destroyed for the likes of George Mason, and this is going to be where they start to find that pressure we were talking about return.
Early in the match, we didn't mention up the counterattack, saying that basically once the members from George Mason were able to pick up those QSSs, it's going to be incredibly hard for Illinois to find any engage whatsoever. Well, that's not really an issue when nobody has picked up a QSS in Firefly. Going for that very AP-oriented build with new Gragas, having a lot more scaling on the cask especially, is able to actually start nuking down some of these members. But that being said, he is still very susceptible to these engages coming out of Minsu, and even more so, susceptible to dying, having absolutely 0 tank stats.
The tank stats definitely so important, and really just what's been making a difference for the likes of Illinois. Topopotamus now having that Warmogs completed since the last time they all went toe-to-toe in a 5-man. Gonna only make all the more difference. A Warmogs and an Ocean Drake is back. I mean, that's both going to contribute so much to just this long-term sustainability. He can back off by a little time and become such a split-pushing threat, even into the likes of Ione. Pressure looking really good for Illinois. The vision looking really good for Illinois. I mean, they've just taken command in every aspect of this game. And the dots that they have around the jungle now of George Mason are facilitating every setup move they're trying to make now.
But here it is. 3 items now completed onto both main carries for George Mason. The switch has been flipped, and now they're starting at that 5k handicap just for their own trouble, picking the scaling competition, not able to secure that first Baron. Is this enough to actually come back in this game? All it takes at this point is one good kill, one good team fight, and you can easily pick it up an inhibitor. But you have to also wonder, are they going to be able to get a team fight off? Because still, no QSSs on any single member, only the Mikhails from Elix. And Minsu going to find it once more.
Oh yeah, Minsu going to get in on 2, and look at that. Just takes it right out. Ginormous Noob and Zeno are on the hunt, and they find Sivert, his spell shield out of. They're going to try to move more. Not spell shield. Yeah, it was a spell shield. So they are going to try to get out of that with the flash. They're okay. Dangerous, though. They can't keep losing Firefly like this. He's dead for 30 seconds. That dragon comes up in 30 seconds. Now the likes of Illinois can just chew right through it. Take it away.
The defensive wave clear comp only works if you're actually playing defensive wave clear. If Firefly continues to get caught out like this, remember, he is not a tank. He is a mage, burst mage, assassin, basically. He will continue to just give the advantage straight back over to Illinois while they should be starting to pop off, and all this is proving incredibly problematic. And if this next Baron goes over, sure, Illinois were unsuccessful in breaking open the inhibitor line last time, but I have to say one more Baron is probably going to be all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, they had so much ground to cover. They took basically all the outer towers last time around with the Baron. This time, the inner towers, the only thing left on the menu, and they're only stronger. Firefly trying to get in onto Xeno here. Does have the explosive cast, doesn't use it. Meanwhile, the rest of the team separated on the top side, but they know this is do or die at this point, and they want to fight. The Rift Scuttler will continue to give them vision throughout, so they do need to reset quickly here. Firefly's health bar, the biggest question mark in this game right now for George Mason. They want to buy time to get that reset and continue building pressure elsewhere with their split pushes from the likes of Ione.
And with that last fight, none of Illinois really had their big ultimate ups except for Ginormous Noob. But they're going to start this one in clear vision, so they're just baiting in George Mason to take a fight.
Yeah, they definitely want that. How can they separate?
Minsu!
Noob is trying. They're trying to get in. He only finds Firefly, and they don't have the follow-up burst this time around. Yes, they do! As Project 1 rampaging with the crit. That's the next one down. Route is in some serious trouble here. Enrique, what can you do on this side? Don't get caught out, and they do find him. That's a double kill dish now from Project 1, and more to follow. Alex in a lot of trouble. He's not getting anywhere. That will be the kill following out, and
that's
the ace coming out from Illinois. They don't even want the Baron. They say to hell with that. We're finding inhibitors. We're trying to find the game. Firefly, 20 seconds, and you know, with the Realm Warp, they may be able to get in and find the inhibitor before that happens, but
that's definitely game number 1.
Yeah, they should be able to find this through. They have so many minions here. 2 cannons, 1 banner of command up. These towers will fall like crazy. Firefly does not have the wave clear, and Route and Enrique cannot do much. So, ladies and gentlemen, in 32 minutes, Illinois make the comeback. They do turn it around on the strong early game of George Mason and win by 9K gold to put themselves up 1-0 in this best-of-3 series. 1 game now from the LA stage.
It certainly looked promising in the early game there for George Mason. They were able to find the plays that just dragged the game out to longer, but when they got to their pinnacle, they just could not execute, and a huge portion of that has to fall on Firefly. He opted in for the new style, very aggressive Gragas build where he doesn't have any tank stats, doesn't have anything to really get him out of a bad situation. In Illinois, they're like, yes, please give us this kill, nom nom nom. And there just was nothing left to actually teamfight around.
Illinois did such a good job of adapting in-game. We always say that's the hallmark of good League of Legends teams, is their adaptation ability there. That's something we harp and herald on in just series play. How can they adapt from pick and ban and draft to draft? But mid-game is so much harder to do. And Illinois made it look easy there. So, really strong play from these guys.
Exactly. In the very beginning of that game, Illinois looked so apprehensive to actually go out and make a play. They had the Skarner, but they just didn't make any plays with it. In the late game, they figured out, hey, let's just take these fights. We're going to lose a scaling game anyway. Let's just get something done right now, and it worked. And that's going to bring them 1 game win away from the national championships themselves in LA, again, that trip to LA, and maybe even a shot at retribution against Maryland if they make it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be some questions we'll find the answers to as well today, as it all does wrap up with the play-ins. But this is the series to focus on. George Mason, 2 games now to claw their way back into it. Illinois, just 1 more nail in the coffin. We'll see if they can make that one happen. But ladies and gentlemen, in the meantime, we got to give these players a couple minutes to get a mental reset, decide what's next, and strategize for these all-important remaining 1, potentially 2 games. We are going to kick it over to a break. My name is Kyle Corbus Crow. I'm joined by Steven Return Johnson. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.